Good evening from ABC News headquarters in Washington. I'm Howard K. Smith.
I'm Harry Reasoner in New York. These are tonight's headlines. 3 more American helicopters are reported crashed in Laos with a loss of 11 lives. Lieutenant Calley testifies he wanted to finish off the residents of My Lai fast in order to get his men moving again. Agents arrest 54 persons and seize nearly $13 million worth of narcotics in the biggest federal crackdown. And President Nixon calls for a consumer protection bill that would ban deceptive advertising and guarantees. Howard?
Reports tonight from Jim Giggins on the vital role of American air power in Laos, Bill Downs on the Army's system of checking up on Americans, Dick Shoemaker on the route of the Alaska pipeline, Charles Murphy on civil defense in Florida, where an alert is a cue for chaos, Tom Jarrell on Bob Hope, Spiro Agnew, and laughter at the White House, and tonight's comment on the need for freezing wages. Harry?
The Allied base at Quang Tri in South Vietnam, the main rear area base for the invasion of Laos, had not received a shell fired in anger in 6 months. But today the enemy sent 15 to 20 122-millimeter rockets into the base. No damage or casualties were reported. In the war, the South Vietnamese remain stalled some 15 miles inside Laos and are now saying their primary objective is to disrupt enemy supply traffic, not to reach a specific place like Chipon, originally announced as their goal. The U.S. command reported the loss of 3 helicopters with 11 American crewmen dead, the heaviest one-day casualty list for Americans in the Laotian operation. Scattered ground encounters between U.S. troops and the enemy continue in areas around Khe Sanh and Route 9. Some American officers see a possible threat to Khe Sanh itself. That would endanger South Vietnam's essential air support. ABC's Jim Giggins reports.
If the South Vietnamese achieve ultimate victory in Laos, much of the credit will go to Americans here at Khe Sanh. They've built up an air armada, the likes of which has never been seen in Indochina. There is more air traffic here at Khe Sanh than at New York's Kennedy Airport, nearly 2,600 takeoffs and landings a day. Giant C-130 transports disgorge everything from troops and tanks to paper cups and peanut butter. They seldom remain longer than it takes to unload before taking off again for more supplies. Most of the traffic here is composed of helicopters, the hundreds of rotors turning Khe Sanh into a veritable dust bowl. This concentration of American air power, directed at Laos, may be South Vietnam's only salvation in their Laotian campaign. They're meeting increasing enemy resistance and are relying on these helicopters to assure them of victory. Every day, these pilots fly missions in support of South Vietnamese ground forces in Laos. In doing so, they come under some of the most sophisticated anti-aircraft fire in the world. These Vietnamese mountainsides on the way to Laos are murderous, dotted with camouflaged enemy anti-aircraft guns. The pilots report their fire is not only frequent, but oftentimes accurate. This Cobra helicopter gunship was hit by enemy ground fire over Laos and limped in here for a crash landing. This helicopter was shot down over Laos, but not destroyed, so it was retrieved and brought back here for repairs. Despite enemy ground fire, Khe Sanh's air armada has stepped up its attacks in Laos as it attempts to neutralize a North Vietnamese force which, for the most part, is still in partial control of its sanctuaries. Jim Giggins, ABC News, Khe Sanh, South Vietnam.
A high White House source said today the decision to go into Laos was not made with overwhelming confidence. With 100 representing perfect assurance, it was, in his description, a 52 to 48 type of decision. But good or bad in outcome, it may hasten U.S. troop withdrawals. At the Pentagon, defense officials assessed the state of the incursion to date and its future prospects. ABC diplomatic correspondent John Scally reports.
Secretary Laird's purpose clearly was to emphasize the positive, namely the South Vietnamese success in disrupting most of the enemy supply trails. He said gains already achieved would guarantee more and perhaps faster American troop withdrawals.
The unassailable fact is that U.S. involvement in the war in Southeast Asia is going down, 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 and we continue to follow that policy.
General John Vogt, a top military aide, followed up by disputing news reports that the South Vietnamese drive has bogged down in the face of fierce enemy resistance.
There is no major force stopping that column on Highway 9. Now, every now and then you're going to find some individual in the field who sees one very little portion of the whole picture, and you'll quote him, and from his viewpoint, the whole thing is going to look dark. This has been true any war I've ever been in. It'll be true of future wars. But it is not the whole picture, gentlemen.
Both the general and Laird warned that 6 regiments of enemy troops, some fresh from North Vietnam, have moved on to the South Vietnamese flank and that tough fighting lay ahead. Laird wouldn't predict the outcome of the impending battles, but said even if the operation were terminated now, it would have achieved its goals. John Scally, ABC News, Washington.
The cross-examination of Lieutenant William Calley began today in his trial at Fort Benning and ended much earlier than had been expected. The defense then rested its case. ABC's Roger Peterson reports.
Lieutenant William Calley was visibly more tense as he took the stand this morning. He constantly rubbed his face with his hand as he listened to questions from Prosecutor Aubrey Daniel. But Calley stuck to his basic story as Daniel pecked away at seemingly minute details. Calley persisted in his denials of the charges against him. He said again he was never even in an area of the village where others had testified he and Paul Meadlow shot down at least 30 Vietnamese. Calley said he did join in shooting at a ditch. Daniel, how many shots did you fire? Calley, 6 to 8, sir. Who did you fire at? At the people in the ditch, sir. Do you know if you hit any of them? No, sir, I don't. How far away were you? The muzzle would have been 5 feet, sir. Where were your men firing? I wasn't paying attention to where they were firing. My main thing was to go on, finish off those people as fast as possible, and get my people into position, sir. Why? Because that's what I was instructed to do, sir. Calley kept repeating he was following orders from Captain Ernest Medina, who Calley described as a fine officer, one he was proud to have served. Calley also said he and Medina discussed the enemy body count from the My Lai operation. He estimated his platoon killed 30 to 40, and Medina upped the figure to 50. Calley said it was an unwritten policy to try for high body counts. With the cross-examination ended, the defense rested. Tomorrow, the prosecution begins presenting rebuttal witnesses. The first to be called will be the Army psychiatrist who examined Calley and say he is perfectly normal. Roger Peterson, ABC News, Fort Benning, Georgia.
We'll be back with more news in a moment.
Hello, I'm Eve, and I live here in the Garden of Eden, and it's a really groovy place with lots of juicy apples hanging around. Did you know that apples make you wise? Well, Ocean Spray mixed up a lot of apples with some cranberries, and they call the stuff Ocean Spray cranapple juice. Groovy. Sure, the cranberries make it tangy, but largely it's apple juice, so I don't see why Ocean Spray doesn't call it apple cran instead of cranapple. Ocean Spray, wise up.
Mrs. Michael Pearl talks about her husband.
When I met him, he was using Head and Shoulders. He loves it. Well, he has dandruff. He says it works. And he's right, it does, you know. If we don't have 3 tubes in the linen closet, I have to run out to the store to get that 3rd tube.
Head and Shoulders. People prove it works. Use it regularly.
Try Head and Shoulders. It's great. It works. Michael says it works.
For years, the military in this country has been keeping dossiers on prominent figures who might touch off riots and cause subversion. Recently, it was charged they were also keeping track of senators and other prominent Americans. Today, a Senate committee continued its investigation of these activities. ABC's Bill Downs reports.
North Carolina's Senator Sam Ervin charged that the Army's domestic spying made silent Americans out of many civilians afraid to speak their mind. This did not apply, however, to former Sergeant John O'Brien and a number of other former Army intelligence agents. Last year, O'Brien blew the whistle on the Army's gumshoe operation in the Midwest after he discovered a dossier was being prepared on Senator Adlai Stevenson III, then Illinois State Treasurer. The reason? O'Brien said he thought it was because of Senator Stevenson's civil rights connections, but the former sergeant added he was not sure.
I think that a small select group of high-ranking Army individuals took on this activity, and that once you get a little power, it's very difficult to give it up, and you always want more. And I'm most appalled, and I honestly believe that former Secretary of Defense Clark Clifford and the Secretary of Defense, the present Secretary of Defense, were not knowledgeable, and this frightens me more than anything else.
The Army also assembled a dossier on Illinois Congressman Abner Mikva, who proposes a law to take the military completely out of domestic intelligence.
We don't need the Army as a law enforcement agency in this country. We can't stand it. And I would say that as far as the Army is concerned, this may be the last opportunity for the country to decide that either the Army runs the country or the country runs the Army, and that there's nothing in between.
Bright lights and TV cameras are expected things in Senate hearings like the one you just saw, but on the House side of the Capitol, television has been kept outside in the hall since 1954. Well, that rule was eased this year, and some House committees may now be filmed, among them the House Appropriations Committee. Until today, its sessions were completely closed to the public as well as to the cameras. ABC Capitol Hill correspondent Sam Donaldson tells us what happened when the doors finally swung open.
Required by the new Congressional Reform Act to admit the public to the annual full budget hearing, the House Appropriations Committee today emerged from 105 years behind closed doors and came to grips with the electronic age.
Mr. Shriver, will you push your back button? All right, now then, the man at the console will turn your mic on. All right, Mr. Slack's on. Now, can I be heard? Oh, yes. Can I be heard now? Sure.
49 of the 55 committee members were present to hear administration witnesses led by Treasury Secretary Connolly make the case for the Nixon budget. A case that will be passed on by such men as George Mahon from Lubbock, Texas, a sound money man at 70 the chairman. John J. Rooney, Brooklyn, New York, who annually battles to pare the State Department budget. And Otto Passman, Monroe, Louisiana, known as Otto the Terrible for his crusades against what he calls foreign aid giveaways. Chairman Mahon spoke the sentiments of the committee majority.
What has brought about this transformation in the thinking of the administration with respect to deficit spending and with respect to fiscal policy? As you know, the country has been somewhat amazed at what is considered by the country and by the Congress as being an about-face by the administration.
The administration may persuade the House Appropriations Committee to go along with a full employment deficit concept, but it will take some doing, and after this week, most probably back behind the closed doors. Sam Donaldson, ABC News, Washington.
We'll be back with more news in a moment.
We're always the first to leave. Why?
It's this long line bra.
You look fine.
I can't breathe, can't move.
Well, can't you get one that's comfortable?
Yep. The Playtex Living Long Line Bra. Ends midriff bulge comfortably. 6 special stretch panels move with you, breathe with you, will stretch like new after 50 machine washings. Get one that's comfortable. The Playtex Living Long Line Bra. Ends midriff bulge comfortably.
My girdle is killing me.
She needs the 18-hour girdle by Playtex. It's made from a remarkable fabric Playtex invented. A delicate webbing with the strength to hold you firm all day. The first firm control girdle that's comfortable for hours. The 18-hour girdle by Playtex.
The blizzard that hit Kansas Sunday and Monday is now being called the state's worst storm of the century. Today, the Air Force moved to help save as many as 275,000 cattle left marooned and starving by drifts up to 27 feet. C-130 cargo planes took off from Great Bend Air Base to dump 35,000 bales of hay where the cattle can reach them. Air National Guard Globemasters flying from Tulsa dropped 40 tons of hay to cattle in northwest Oklahoma. Conservationists dominated the hearings on the Alaska pipeline held by the Interior Department last week, but it's now the turn of Alaskans concerned about the economic impact of no pipeline. And 300 persons are scheduled to speak at sessions in Anchorage. It's a real concern for many of them, as ABC's Dick Shoemaker reports from Anchorage.
This is where the Alaskan pipeline stands today, in pieces. Hundreds of miles of it stacked and ready to go near the port of Valdez in southern Alaska. The pipe is here, but the oil is 800 miles away on the frozen slopes of the north. They've been drilling there for 2 years, and geologists say they've already located more oil than you can find in Louisiana, Oklahoma, and half of Texas. But how do you build a pipeline across Alaska without ruining the wilderness? Here on the North Slope, morale is as low as the temperature, and that sometimes hits 70 below. The oil companies say they must have the pipeline now, that the oil is vital to the national security of the United States. The conservationists say no, it isn't. They say build a pipeline and you'll drive away the animals, like these caribou, who migrate across the planned route of the pipeline. The conservationists also are afraid the oil companies will tear up the tundra with their trucks and tractors, and so the boom of the Alaskan oil rush temporarily has turned into a bust. Here in Anchorage, the largest town in the state, many people are waiting impatiently for the pipeline controversy to come to some sort of conclusion. The construction industry in Anchorage is building for the future, and that future and the welfare of many of the people here depends largely on the pipeline. The business community knows what it wants. Don't wait. Go ahead with the pipeline now. There are those in Alaska, including the governor, who say if the pipeline isn't built, then the state is going to go bankrupt. That pipeline, it seems, means money. So, many say if the ecology is going to be damaged a little, that's the price Alaska must pay for progress. Dick Shoemaker, ABC News, in Anchorage, Alaska.
We'll be back with more news in a moment.
These are some of the germs that could be found on the plastic bathroom glass your whole family uses. Some can make you sick, and rinsing won't wash them away. But why use this germ spreader when you can use disposable Dixie bathroom cups instead? With Dixie bathroom cups, you don't spread germs. You throw them away. Pick up a Dixie bathroom dispenser before someone picks up a cold.
It's like bathing in the moistness of an early morning dew, a feeling borrowed by Calgon and converted into Calgon bath oil beads, a heavenly potion of youthful oils and softeners that soak away dryness, take away time, and leave you feeling soft as the dawn's early light. Calgon bath oil beads, like bathing in an early morning dew, from the Calgon collection of nature baths.
You're looking at the U.S. Car of the Year, chosen by Road Test Magazine. The 1971 Plymouth Satellite, with a totally new automotive design, engineered and built with extra care. Plymouth Satellite, the car of the year, the buy of the year. See it at your Chrysler Plymouth dealers.
Hey, this isn't Alpo.
Honey, it's just like Alpo, only cheaper.
Read the ingredients.
Meat byproducts, soybean meal, cracked barley, that's cereal.
Now check Alpo.
Beef chunks and meat byproducts with all the vitamins and minerals needed for a complete and balanced diet.
And not a speck of cereal.
Baby, from now on, it's Alpo for you.
Doesn't your dog deserve Alpo?
Using wiretaps and undercover agents, the federal government is in the midst of a major crackdown on drugs. The Attorney General calls it the biggest in the nation's history. 54 arrests were made last night in New York, Chicago, Hartford, and New Orleans, and $13 million worth of drugs have been seized. The president asked Congress today for some new laws to protect the consumer. His plan would give HEW the power to outlaw dangerous household products and toys and to regulate claims in advertising. Few claims are being made these days for the nation's civil defense program. A false alert was broadcast on Saturday. Then, to make matters even worse, virtually nobody who was supposed to responded. ABC's Charles Murphy checked the civil defense setup in Florida today and discovered hitches in their local system as well.
This is the Dade County Civil Defense Headquarters. It is the nexus of communications for alerting the public to any possible disaster. Here in Dade County, they have their own way of doing things, and sometimes they don't work.
First, the deputy director demonstrated one of two systems for alerting the public. This phone connects with the State Civil Defense in Jacksonville, which is connected with National Civil Defense in Denton, Texas.
State CD Jacksonville, this is Dade County Control.
This is Jacksonville CD, over.
This is Dade County Control. Would you please contact National 2, ask them to run a test and demonstration, over.
Jacksonville CD, roger your transmission. Please stand by, over.
There was a long silence while Miami waited to hear from National Civil Defense.
Dade County Control, National 2 is trying to reach you. Can you read them? Over.
Negative, over.
Fisher tried several times, but never did hear directly from National 2. His office also prepared messages to be broadcast in case Miami is attacked, one of which goes like this.
Although the enemy has struck the first blow, our Strategic Air Command and naval units have devastated many of his major cities and industrial centers. Our defense forces have retaliated with tremendous effectiveness, and the probability of victory is good.
Would you actually know that victory is likely?
We have to assume that at this point of the game that we have superiority in weapons and air power and the like, and in submarine, missile-carrying submarines over a potential enemy at this point.
This message was taped and sent to a radio station, but the station can't find the tape, all of which may be reassuring to the public. Charles Murphy, ABC News, Miami.
If this works, we'll be back in a moment.
A centerpiece adds elegance and beauty to any table setting. But a correct centerpiece should be low, so people at the table can see each other. The correct air freshener? Glade. Glade is always light and delicate. Some air fresheners mask odors with a strong scent of their own, but Glade is lightly scented. It cleans and freshens the air like a spring shower. As far as I'm concerned, Glade is the only air freshener to use.
John Cameron Swayze here for new Super Bravo floor finish. Mrs. Ann Kravitz gave this floor a brilliant Super Bravo shine. Now we've removed one tile to show you how Super Bravo's advanced vinyls formula makes that shine last. It lasts through pounding foot traffic, through messy kitchen spills, through repeated detergent washings. Now we've replaced the tile, and it looks as shiny as the rest of the floor. New Super Bravo for a brilliant shine that lasts and lasts and lasts.
In other news, for 46 years, a federal law has prohibited national banks from making loans to political parties for campaigns. Today, for the first time, 4 banks were indicted for breaking the law. The banks are all in Ohio, in Cincinnati, Bellefontaine, Columbus, and Mount Vernon, and they are charged with making the illegal loans in last year's primary and general elections. Jane Fonda wants to make tours of U.S. military installations abroad to give the soldiers an ideological alternative to Bob Hope. She may have to wait for a different administration. Last night, Hope not only made non-ideological jokes about the administration's leaders at a White House dinner for the nation's governors, he spent the night in the Lincoln bed. ABC's White House correspondent Tom Jarrell reports.
Up the people, you meet them wherever you go. Up the people.
The Nixon White House turned out lavish, light entertainment for the nation's governors. After candlelight dinner with wine, the stiffness of the black tie function was broken by a relaxed vocal group from the show Up with People. Vice President Agnew's erratic golf game was the target of the Hope humor.
And he's very easy to spot on the course. He has a white bag with a red cross on it, and it's very easy to spot him. In fact, some people think the president should send them to Laos with a 3-wood. And I must say that he did play the last 15 holes in great shape. He got quite a few pars and thrilled the gallery and got a lot of applause when he made his comeback on the back 9. And in fact, on the back 9, he had a birdie, an eagle, an elk, a moose, and a mason.
In appreciation for the performance by the millionaire jokester, Mr. Nixon offered a gift of his autographed golf ball emblazoned with a presidential seal.
I see. Oh, yeah, I see it's on there.
And incidentally, the vice president has one of his balls for you, too.
The red 8-ball given by the vice president left him one up in the joke department and a swinging turn from golf back to music. Tom Jarwell, ABC News at the White House.
A lot less people to worry about and a lot more people who care. A lot less people to worry about and a lot more people who care. Yeah!
Howard will be back with tonight's comment in a moment.
There are good men around who have learned that the way to stay out of trouble in a new job is to stay out of sight. These guys become experts at avoiding all sorts of decisions and responsibilities. So naturally, they don't contribute much. But there is a cure for it. You just have to start seeking their opinions. Let them know you really care about what they think.
Hey, what do you think of this? Oh, me? Yeah, you. How would you like to work with me on this?
And who knows where it could lead.
Had some ideas.
That's the way we came up with the first waterproof sandpaper. And an adhesive strong enough to replace rivets in airplanes.
If you could take...
Every employee comes complete with a mind at absolutely no additional cost.
Boy, this is wonderful work.
So why not make use of it?
We
We
can
do.
reshape the programming.
3M Company.
We can put out twice. That's terrific.
The most unconvincing argument in the world is when a father tells his little son, "This is going to hurt me more than it hurts you." The second most unconvincing argument in the world is to tell the unions what you and we all need is a freeze on wages. If we allowed no wage raises that exceed labor productivity for a year or two, the workers and all of us would be richer. The inflation that makes us poor was started by Vietnam, but Vietnam's no longer an important factor. Inflation is now kept up by labor, no longer the underdog of the 30s, but now a monopoly power, demanding and getting wage raises far greater than productivity. For example, prices went up last year 6%, but building wages went up 18%, 3 times as fast, and they're now rising at a rate of 22%. That ensures new price rises that will eat up those raises, erode away all our incomes, and price builders out of jobs. A wage freeze to, say, 3% rise per year would stop that, would halt the erosion of everybody's incomes, and bring full employment. It would end the self-defeating habit of demanding ever more, yet ending up, in fact, with less. If workers should strike to break the freeze, the sensible but unpopular course for the public would be not to yield, as we do regularly now, but to resist, to take the discomfort and frustrate the strike. That's the rational solution that would benefit everybody, workers and all. But unions need not fear such a blow to their illusions is coming. President Nixon's small action on wages yesterday shows there's not enough political will around to meet the problem and to solve it. Harry?
Thank you, Howard. That's tonight's news and a comment. I'm Harry Reasoner. Good night.
It's time for I Dream of Jeannie. Watch Jeannie, the Major, Dr. Bellows, and all the fun next on Channel 8.
Who has returned to the sea for survival. See the Marine Iguana tonight at 7:30, 6:30 Central Time. Then, militants threaten the life of Detective Chad Smith on The Smith Family, starring Henry Fonda, here on ABC.
Remnant House, mill outlet of the world's finest fabrics, announces the grand opening of their newest store at 3740 Nolensville Road. Celebration savings at both Remnant Houses, 314 Hermitage Avenue and 3740...